For the National Black Child Development Week, NBCDI is celebrating the pillars of the Black community. The BCDI Chicago Metro affiliate has chosen to honor Dr. Barbara T. Bowman. As an Erickson alum myself, I have come to love and cherish knowing her.
All right, everybody, please feel free to continue with your lunch, but we wanted to make sure that you all had an opportunity to meet one of our founders of Erickson Institute, Dr. Barbara Taylor Bowman. As I told you all the story, 50 plus years ago, came together with 3 other individuals to establish Erickson Institute. She has a career and a legacy that is just indelible in terms of the impact it has made in the world of education and particularly child development. On top of, handling all functions here at Erickson, being a full-time faculty member and on the Board of Trustees, she has also served as the Chief Officer of Early Childhood Education for Chicago Public Schools. She advised, at the time, Secretary Arne Duncan when he was at the White House. Her daughter is Valerie Jarrett. Got to put that out there. But, I think if anything, Barbara is just fire. I
think that's about enough.
It's just truly an honor to have her presence, not only in this particular program, but the support of the policy and leadership work here at Erickson, because it's so much in terms of what she's done in the contributions in the world of early childhood, whether that be practice or advocacy and policy. So without further ado, please help me welcome Barbara.
Thank you so much. What I tell my students who say, well, you've got such a long resume. How did you do so many things? I said, I lived a long time. So I recommend it highly if you want to have a long resume, live a long time.
Barbara Taylor Bowman, a revered figure in the field of early childhood education, is a true visionary and trailblazer whose profound impact continues to shape the landscape of education for young children and especially for Black children. Throughout her illustrious career, spanning several decades, Barbara has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to providing quality early education opportunities to children from all walks of life. Her passion for this cause was ignited during her own experiences as a mother and educator, where she recognized the critical importance of the early years in shaping a child's development and future success.
Honoring Barbara Bowman, a living legacy in early childhood education. She's an author, she's a teacher, she mentors people, she's my friend, and most of all, she cares about what's happening to African American children. Particularly after she took the leadership in early childhood in Chicago. She really focused in. She had, as far as, I've known Barbara since the 70s. I've admired her. She's just someone you look up to. She's so caring. She has a beautiful family. And she's just special. God gave her special gifts. And particularly, I want to focus on when she was in Chicago, how she really, with Aisha, they really did a lot of research out of Erickson and co-authored many projects that help to benefit and move the agenda for African American children. Also, you know, she was such a big supporter of NBCDI. She co-authored publications with me. She edited publications. She never said no. Whenever I asked Barbara to do something, she got it done. Where she found the time, I do not know, because she was on the faculty. She's been in leadership roles in NACI. She spoke at our conference every year. She's just unbelievable. We traveled to France together to look at early childhood education. She is a special person, and the field has been so lucky to have her.
Hello everyone, I'm Valerie Jarrett, but more importantly, the daughter of Barbara Bowman, one of the co-founders of Erickson Institute. I am delighted to be with you today as we celebrate the National Black Child Development Institute and the important work that this organization has done for over 50 years. Growing out of the civil rights movement, there was a recognition that our Black children are not given the tools and support they need to thrive in this world. And here's the good news. We now have 5 decades of evidence of strategies that have been put into place that have improved the outcomes of our Black children, particularly those who are most vulnerable. And I want to congratulate Evelyn Moore, one of the founders, for all the work that she did. And I know that her co-conspirator was certainly Barbara Bowman every stretch of the way. My childhood dining room tables were full of conversations about the importance of supporting our Black children, particularly, again, those who are most vulnerable. Everything from the curriculum that my mother developed for Erickson Institute to public policy strategies for advocating on behalf of these important measures, evidence-based strategies at the national level. And believe me, my mother has been indefatigable, even at the age of 94. I remember about 25 years ago when we had a family barbecue in our backyard. And I couldn't find my mother anywhere. And I went looking for her. And behind closed doors, she was holed up with then State Senator Barack Obama, lobbying him about an important piece of legislation at the state level that she was sure was going to improve the health outcomes and the education outcomes of our Black children. Well, over these decades, these 2 incredible women have put their mind to raising the national spotlight on these evidence-based strategies. And I'm so proud of the work that they have done individually and that the Institute has done as a whole. And so I say to the next generation, it is your turn to pick up the baton and run with it. And just remember, our Black children are counting on you. So let's make sure they can reach their full potential. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi there, I am so thrilled that my grandmother, Barbara Bowman, is being honored by NBCDI. There is no bigger champion of Black families in this country than Barbara Bowman, and that's in part because she knows the importance of family and what families need to be supported in their daily lives. She is the matriarch of our family, hosting Sunday night dinner for everyone in the family every single week. No matter what has happened, everyone knows that they can go to her home and be welcomed with open arms and leave a little bit better, with a little bit of a bounce in their step after having Sunday night dinner at her house. She always has a little bit of wisdom, a little pearl, a little nugget of something to share around the dinner table. And it often has to do with what families are going through in this country every single day, things that she's observed, things that she's worried about, things that she wants to make sure the rest of the family knows are important. But she also listens to everyone, and she provides that support that so many families need, but too often aren't getting. And we're so lucky to have her in our lives. We're so lucky that we get the benefit of having her wisdom every single week. And I'm so proud of her, and I'm so happy to have her get this award.
This is Reverend John Harris, Erickson grad, class of 1976. It is without question, Barbara Bowman created a path for me in the field of child development that words cannot express the gratitude I have for Erickson. However, I must share an experience with Barbara exercised her gift of humor. At the end of my 1 year of graduate study for my master's, which was very intense in completing, I went to the office of Erickson on the 9th floor of the Hyde Park building there in Chicago to get some information which I really needed, because after your coursework, you had to complete a comprehensive examination. I was there to find out whether I passed the comprehensive examination. And Barbara was one of many in the office, and upon greeting each other, she asked the question, "What are you here for?" And I responded, "To get the results of the comp." And she responded as only she could, Well, I passed," I responded to her. And then out of nowhere, for some reason, I said to her, "You know, I lost 25 pounds this past year attending Erickson." And Barbara looked at me, and in her calm demeanor, "Well, John," she spoke, "you can now go out and tell everyone Erickson is good for something." With a smile on her face, she approached me and hugged me, and we parted. What an understatement. In my professional career of over 40 years, Barbara was my anchor. She was my beacon star. And I could not have done much of anything in this field without the foundation that she was responsible for. God bless you.
We brought to the establishment of Erickson, I think, something that's still relevant today and probably you've been talking about here. And one of those things was that the sociologists and the anthropologists and many of the psychologists had just begun to talk about the importance of culture. I was just talking to one of you about Allison Davis, who was the first African-American professor at the University of Chicago, and was very influential in our thinking about how we should be formulating an educational program for teachers of children who came from different cultural backgrounds and who had different resources at their disposal. He had written quite a lot on Southern Black experience and on Navajo reservation experience. So we came to this understanding of teacher education with two sort of sociological ideas, anthropological ideas. One was that culture affects everything, that everything happens to children through a filter of culture. And that was a very new idea. And the second one was that the past, the institutional past, affects the future. Everybody in psychology accepts that how children experience the past will have an effect on how they act in the future. We hadn't thought about that in relation to groups. And so that groups past could affect how they experience the future was a relatively brand new idea. And so the importance of community action, the importance of communities being involved in a change process was a fairly new idea in education, and one that I think was an important one for us in social justice, because it meant that we had to spend some time talking to our students about social justice. We had to talk to our students about what it was like to work with people who didn't come from the same social class you came from, who didn't have the same race you had. We had to talk to them about privilege. We had to talk to them about the fact that even if they came from minority communities, they had privilege by virtue of their educations. And so the whole idea that you must understand where people are coming from You must look at their culture and see what the filter is for why they behave the way they do. And it makes sense. It makes sense to them because of their past experience. It may not make sense to you, but it makes sense to them. So that was one of our beginning ideas that was pervasive, I think, and still is pervasive in how we conduct our educational program.
Hello, my name is Janice Jones, and I want to thank Chicago BCDI for inviting me to make some comments about Barbara Bowman and how I feel that she influences the world of early care and education. First of all, Barbara was my professor at Erickson's Institute and also my advisor for a year. So I want to share just a short story about my initial interactions with Barbara. I arrived at Erickson's Institute for my second year. And at the time, our location, we had a bulletin board out in the lobby, and there were sheets of paper with your advisor's name on it. I went to the first sheet looking for my name under my first advisor, my first year, but my name wasn't there. So I kept looking, trying to find my name, and there it was under Barbara Bowman. I think I was a little horrified, okay? Anybody that knows Barbara knows she's very serious, no joking and playing around, deeply committed. And I think I was kind of like shaking in my boots. Other students was like, oh, wow, you got Barbara Bowman, it's good. I was like, I don't know about that. But anyway, after spending a year with her, I learned a lot. A few of the things that I learned was how to become more self-reflective as a professional, how to have my own professional goals, how to figure out how I wanted to work in the field of early care and education, and to make a strong commitment to the children and families and others that I served in the field. And I think for all of us as students, you walk away with that if you've had any engagements with Barbara, whether she was your professor, your advisor, or you just heard her speak at a national conference or serve on a panel. She's very smart. She's deeply, deeply committed to the field of early care and education and to all of us who she impacts and sends out into the world. Barbara's students are not only all over the United States, but in other countries. Her impact is so widely felt. Her commitment, her caring, and all of us that have shared with Barbara, we kind of feel the same way. So to Barbara Bowman, I thank you. I thank you for your commitment to not only the field, but to us who you've helped to become leaders in the field, and to everyone that has engaged with you. You're absolutely awesome. Thank you, Barbara.
I was in search of early childhood educators who were from African American descent who had made a contribution to the field. One of the people that I found was Barbara Bowman. Upon interviewing her, she talked about her role model, who was Anita Cockrell. Anita Cockrell was the director of the Rosenwald Nursery School on 47th and Wabash in Chicago. During summer breaks and when Barbara was in college coming home, she worked with Anita Cockrell at the Rosenwald Nursery. It was just a great opportunity for her, and she learned the best from the best. In my interview with Barbara Bowman, I remember her when I asked her what was her greatest contribution to the field of early childhood education, and her response was her daughter. I remember when, as I was teaching at Trinity University in Washington, D.C., I used a video about the emotional development of young children. Barbara appeared on that video. And one of the things she said that I will never forget is that every child needs someone who is in love with them. And I will always remember that. And then later in my career as an education specialist at the Office of Head Start, I had the opportunity to listen to Barbara as she was the key presenter at the State Department. And there was a session there on reading. And Barbara said, just because a child reads first does not mean he reads best.
I first heard the name Barbara Bowman in 1999 when I became a student at Erickson Institute. Barbara is a trailblazer. She served on numerous boards and committees. She's acted as the chief officer for early childhood education at Chicago Public Schools and even served as a consultant to the U.S. Secretary of Education. Throughout her career, Barbara has taught teachers, medical students, nurses, and she's been a long-standing advocate for Black children and families. Sitting down in my classes with Barbara's leadership, I learned how to stand up for Black children and families. She helped me to understand individual and systemic solutions, the difference between development and education, and how to find the strengths of each child and family. All of these tools have become the cornerstone of my work. Barbara is a sought-after expert who doesn't show any signs of slowing down yet. Thank you, Barbara, for your continued guidance and leadership.
But I just want you to know that meeting you back in the days of Head Start Plan Variation, and you're talking about the enabling model was something I've always used, at least the framework of it, in terms of getting things done. You've been a real contributor, not only to the field, but in terms of my reading your work, and it's helped me. You, Asa, and others was my foundation as I spent my career, as you've done, doing those things for young Black children in America.
It is with great pleasure that I pay tribute to Barbara Bowman, who has been a longtime mentor of mine and supporter of children everywhere, and in particular, supporter to Black children and families, poor children and families, actually all children and families. Barbara, I was a student of Barbara's many years ago at Erickson Institute, and Barbara's concept of commitment to early childhood education always included all children, and she really meant all children. She was never partial to any particular group, although she has been a longtime supporter of the National Black Child Development Institute, was a part of the organization from its inception in the early 70s, and has just always been a champion for understanding that children grow up within a social and cultural context. And to that end, Black children deserved special attention that in some ways is different from the attention that other children get, but also deserve. All children deserve the special attention of well-trained early childhood professionals. And Barbara has always been a champion for all children, and especially our Black African American children. Unfortunately, we haven't solved all the problems yet. We're working at it, but we haven't solved all the problems. And so I have three concerns which I'd like to leave you with, and maybe you all can help solve them, and we can together go forward on them. But my concerns are, how do we move our country toward a belief in equity? We had a watershed event in 1965 where we changed how people thought about poor people and what we should be doing for them. We're ready for another change. How do we get that started? How do we help people understand that what we're doing now is we're leaving lots of children behind, and we need to get a movement going that makes equity more acceptable, makes it more positive in people's lives, and if they're willing to get behind it and support it with taxpayers' money. So until we can get some more motivation, it's going to be hard to get additional funds. We're lucky here in Illinois, but let me tell you, this is not characteristic of the rest of the states. Many states are cutting back on their early childhood programs, and we have less money to work with than we did a generation ago. Another one that is concern to me is the tension between making money, between making things economically feasible, and serving children well. And I think if you've been watching the news yesterday or day before when the governor announced that they were spending more money on training teachers, there was a pushback immediate. Well, how about the people who had experience? Are they going to be fired because they don't have the education that we know is good for children? So how do we balance this notion of people who had experience in the field but don't have the educational credentials, don't have the educational knowledge to do the job needs to be done? We're still not preparing all poor children to go to school. And until we do that, we're failing. And so how do we get this balance between when we know that training staff is a high priority, despite the fact that it is hard for people who don't have that training to get it, to be up to date, to participate? And my third one is, how do we identify professional responsibility? What is our responsibility to change? What is our responsibility to making sure that the way we are organizing our services are equitable and are moving more people toward having a fair share of the American dream?
There are two people in the child development field that I have personally met, and they have left an indelible imprint on me. And that is Dr. Barry Brazelton and also Dr. Barbara Taylor Bowman. Many people in the early childhood field have taken on leadership roles because of the knowledge Barbara has imparted to us. Barbara is a very giving person. She has always made herself available to me, and she has always supported our BCDI Chicago Metro affiliate. I'm forever grateful that she provided the foreword to our NBCDI publication, Being Black is Not a Risk Factor. Barbara, we salute you, and we will be forever thankful to have had you as part of our affiliate. For more information on NBCDI, please go to nbcdi.org. We also have Facebook and Instagram available.